All right, so get
Yeah.
this. We're diving deep into A Christmas Carol.
Ooh, sounds fun.
But it's not just any old reread.
Okay.
We've got these facsimiles of Dickens's original manuscript
Wow.
and a typeset version.
So we can see.
Yeah,
It's like
a behind-the-scenes look.
Yeah.
A total literary masterpiece.
I love that.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what we find.
Me too. It's like having a key to Dickens' workshop, you know?
Oh, totally.
You can unlock like all the secrets of his writing process.
Yeah.
See how the story like evolved from the first pen strokes and the final printed page.
Exactly. It's not every day we get this kind of insight into a writer's mind.
No, not at all.
So, okay, so what jumped out at you when you first saw these manuscripts?
Honestly, the sheer number of revisions
Oh, really?
Dickens made. He was so meticulous, constantly refining his language,
Wow.
like searching for the perfect words to convey his message.
So he was really...
And these edits, they aren't just cosmetic.
Right.
They reveal these deeper layers of meaning,
Okay.
like hidden intentions
Interesting.
that might not be obvious in
Yeah.
the final published version.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks.
Let's do it.
We all know the famous first line.
Of course.
Marley was as dead as a doornail.
Yep.
But here's what's wild.
Right.
In the manuscript, Dickens throws in this funny bit about doornails
Okay.
being like the best kind of dead.
Yeah.
It's like he's winking at the reader,
I love this.
you know, reminding us not to take things too seriously,
Right.
even when we're dealing with death.
Yeah, that playful tone is so important.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for the whole story.
Right.
This blend of humor
Yeah.
and social commentary that Dickens is so known for.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
like he's...
Yeah, it's almost as if he's like
Yeah.
disarming us with a joke
Uh-huh.
before he hits us with the hard truths
Yeah.
about poverty and inequality in Victorian London.
And he doesn't waste any time introducing us to Scrooge.
No, he does not.
The manuscript describes him solemnizing Marley's funeral with an undoubted bargain.
Wow.
Talk about a character introduction that packs a punch.
Yeah.
It's like right off the bat.
Right away.
We know that this guy is all about profit,
All about the money.
even in the face of death.
Yeah. And that raises the question, doesn't it?
What's that?
Can a man who sees everything as a transaction,
Right.
even death,
Yeah.
truly understand the value of human life,
Right.
the spirit of generosity, of compassion?
That's deep.
That's the journey we're about to take with Scrooge.
Yeah, and what a journey it is.
I know.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
let's talk about that famous fog.
Oh, the fog.
Dickens paints a picture of London so vividly.
Oh, yeah.
You can practically feel the dampness seeping into your bones.
The fog is more than just weather
Oh, really?
in A Christmas Carol.
What do you mean?
Think about it.
Okay.
London was a city
Yeah.
shrouded in poverty,
Right.
where the wealthy often turned a blind eye to the suffering around them.
Okay.
The fog becomes like a metaphor
Hmm.
for this societal blindness,
Interesting.
this willful ignorance
Okay.
that allows inequality to thrive.
Wow, that's deep.
It is.
It's like the fog is both a
Yeah.
physical and a psychological barrier, obscuring not just the streets, but also people's hearts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dickens wants us to see that connection,
Yeah.
to understand that individual choices
Right.
are intertwined with the broader social fabric.
Speaking of choices, we can't forget Scrooge's nephew
Right.
bursting in with his Christmas cheer.
Yes.
Such a contrast
Total opposite.
to Scrooge's grumpy demeanor.
Yeah.
It's like two worlds colliding.
Totally.
The spirit of generosity versus the cold calculus of profit.
This is where Dickens starts to lay the groundwork
Oh, okay.
for Scrooge's transformation.
Yeah.
The nephew embodies the values
Okay.
that Scrooge has suppressed.
Right.
Kindness, compassion, the importance of human connection.
I see.
It's a reminder
Yeah.
that even the most hardened heart
Yeah.
can be touched by the spirit of Christmas.
But that transformation doesn't happen overnight.
It takes time.
And this is where the manuscript gets really interesting.
Oh, really?
We see Dickens painstakingly crafting Scrooge's journey,
Okay.
adding details, refining scenes, constantly searching for the right balance
Right.
between darkness and light.
Take, for instance, the scene where Scrooge
Okay.
and his nephew are discussing Christmas.
Yeah.
In the manuscript, Dickens initially wrote
Okay.
that many thousands are in want of common necessaries,
Right.
but then he crosses it out
Oh, wow.
and changes it to hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts.
Wow. That's a subtle but powerful shift.
It is.
What do you make of that change?
It reveals Dickens' deep commitment to social justice.
Okay.
He's not just interested in depicting poverty.
Right.
He wants to emphasize the scale of the problem, the sheer number of people struggling.
Wow.
By changing thousands to hundreds of thousands,
Right.
he forces the reader and Scrooge to confront the harsh realities of inequality.
It's like Dickens is using those extra words to amplify the urgency of the situation, to shake us out of our complacency.
Exactly.
And force us to see the world through the eyes of those who are suffering.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning of Scrooge's awakening.
Oh, wow.
But before we delve into that,
Okay.
there's one more crucial scene we need to discuss.
What's that?
The arrival of Marley's ghost.
Ooh, yeah. Talk about chills.
I know.
Dickens builds suspense so masterfully, describing the rattling chains, the rising window, Scrooge's heart pounding in his chest.
And the manuscript reveals that Dickens was particularly meticulous in crafting this scene.
Wow.
Adding details, refining description, even experimenting with different sound effects to create the most terrifying experience for the reader.
It's like he wanted to make us feel the weight of Marley's chains.
Yes.
The burden of his unfulfilled life.
Right.
The consequences of choosing greed over compassion.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that terror that Scrooge experiences, it's a reflection of our own fears. You know, the uneasy realization that we might be more like Scrooge than we care to admit.
Okay, that's a thought-provoking point.
It is.
Maybe we need to confront our own inner Scrooges.
I think so.
Before we move on
to
his journey with the ghosts of Christmas.
I agree. Let's take a moment to reflect on how this story might be relevant to our own lives, our own choices, our own potential for transformation.
All right, sounds good.
We'll be right back after a short pause.
Okay.
Welcome back. It's fascinating how Dickens uses the arrival of the first spirit, the ghost of Christmas past, to unlock Scrooge's memories.
Okay.
The manuscript shows how he, carefully crafted these scenes.
Right.
Almost like piecing together a psychological puzzle.
You mentioned something about a puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do these scenes fit together to create the bigger picture?
Think about it. Each memory reveals a pivotal moment.
Okay.
Where Scrooge chose isolation or material wealth over human connection.
Interesting.
Like his lonely childhood, the loss of Belle, his obsession with business.
Okay.
It's like Dickens is saying that our present selves are shaped by the choices we made in the past.
It reminds me of that saying, we are the sum of our experiences.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not an excuse for Scrooge's behavior.
Right.
But it does make him a more complex and honestly more sympathetic figure.
Exactly. It's not just about judging Scrooge.
Right.
It's about understanding how he got there.
Yeah.
And this is where Dickens' genius shines through.
Okay. He could have easily painted Scrooge as a one-dimensional villain.
Yeah.
But instead he gives us glimpses of his humanity.
Okay.
Those moments of regret and vulnerability that make him relatable.
Yeah.
Even redeemable.
That's what makes A Christmas Carol so powerful, right?
Yes.
It's not just a story about a grumpy old man who learns to love Christmas.
Right.
It's a story about the possibility of transformation.
Yes.
The idea that we can always choose a different path.
I love that.
No matter how far we've strayed.
And Dickens underscores that point with the character of Fezziwig.
Oh, yeah, Fezziwig.
Remember Scrooge apprenticed under him?
Right.
And the manuscript shows how Dickens revised the descriptions of their Christmas party, focusing on the sheer joy and generosity of the event.
Fezziwig is like the anti-Scrooge. He's a man who understands that true wealth lies in the happiness of those around him.
Yeah. It makes you wonder.
What's that?
Did Dickens know someone like that?
Oh, interesting.
Someone who embodied that ideal of kindness and generosity.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Dickens drew inspiration from real life.
Right.
So maybe Fezziwig was based on a composite of people he admired.
That makes sense.
People who represented the values he championed in his writing.
Whatever the inspiration. Fezziwig's impact on Scrooge is undeniable.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The manuscript highlights how Scrooge, upon witnessing the party scene, actually sheds a tear.
Wow.
Like a flicker of longing for the man.
Yeah.
He could have been.
That's a pivotal moment.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
Totally.
It suggests that Deep down,
Yeah.
Scrooge still yearns for connection,
Okay.
for a sense of belonging. He's not completely lost.
Uh-huh.
There's still a spark of humanity within him.
And that spark is further ignited by the ghost of Christmas present. The manuscript describes this scene as like a feast for the senses.
Oh, I love it.
Overflowing tables, laughter, music.
Yes.
It's like Dickens wanted to capture the pure joy and abundance of the Christmas spirit.
Absolutely. And notice how this scene contrasts sharply with Scrooge's own solitary existence.
Right.
It's like a stark reminder of what he's missing. The richness of human connection that he's denied himself.
And speaking of richness,
yes,
you know what really caught my eye?
What's that?
In the manuscript,
Okay.
Dickens's detailed descriptions of food.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't just tell us they're having goose.
Right.
He practically lists every ingredient in the stuffing.
That level of detail might seem excessive.
Yeah.
But it serves a purpose.
Okay.
Food, especially during the holidays, is about more than just sustenance.
Right.
It's about tradition, togetherness, the sharing of bounty. And Dickens uses food imagery throughout A Christmas Carol to highlight these themes.
Interesting.
Think about it.
Okay.
The meager gruel that Scrooge eats.
Right.
The abundance of the Ghost of Christmas Presents feast.
Yeah.
The Cratchits' simple but lovingly prepared meal.
Wow, you're right. I never thought about the food imagery that way before.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Dickens is using food as a shorthand for different ways of living, different values.
Precisely. The way we eat what we eat, who we share our meals with. These are all reflections of our priorities, our relationships, our understanding of abundance and scarcity.
And for the Cratchits, even though they have so little, their Christmas dinner is a celebration of love and gratitude.
Exactly.
It's a powerful contrast.
It is.
To Scrooge's solitary, joyless existence.
Absolutely. And this is where Dickens' social commentary really comes to the forefront. He wants us to see that true wealth isn't measured in material possessions, but in the richness of human connection. The Cratchits, despite their poverty, are richer in spirit than Scrooge could ever be.
Okay, but let's not sugarcoat things.
Right.
Dickens doesn't shy away from depicting the harsh realities of poverty.
It's true.
The scene where Tiny Tim is described as frail and sickly is heartbreaking.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Dickens isn't romanticizing poverty.
Right.
He's showing us the devastating consequences of inequality.
Right.
Tiny Tim's illness is a direct result of the Cratchit family's precarious financial situation.
Right.
Their inability to afford proper medical care.
And the manuscript reveals that Dickens was very deliberate in his portrayal of Tiny Tim, agonizing over the right words to convey both his vulnerability and his indomitable spirit.
He wanted readers to connect with Tiny Tim.
Okay.
On an emotional level.
Yeah.
To understand that his fate was not inevitable, but a direct result of societal choices.
I see.
And perhaps to feel a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
For the well-being of those less fortunate.
It's like he's saying, this is what happens when we turn a blind eye to suffering.
Right.
This is the human cost of indifference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where the story takes a darker turn.
Okay.
As Scrooge is confronted with the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
Right.
This spirit shrouded in silence and shadow.
Yeah.
Doesn't offer comfort or reassurance.
Right.
But rather a glimpse into a future. Shaped by Scrooge's choices.
And let's be honest, that future is pretty bleak.
It is.
The manuscript emphasizes the coldness and detachment of the scenes with the businessmen discussing Scrooge's death and the people pawning his belongings.
It's true.
It's chilling to think that Scrooge could end up
so utterly alone, forgotten, his life reduced to a few meager possessions.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dickens is holding up a mirror to Scrooge, showing him the potential consequences of his actions.
Okay.
The emptiness of a life, devoid of compassion and connection.
But I have to ask.
Sure.
Do you think Dickens was being overly pessimistic?
That's a good question.
I mean, surely not everyone is that callous, right?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to like a larger debate about human nature.
Right.
Are we inherently selfish?
Yeah.
Or are we capable of empathy and compassion?
Where?
Dickens, I believe, was an optimist at heart.
Okay.
But he also recognized the darker impulses within us.
So how do we reconcile those two sides?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's precisely what Scrooge is grappling with as he faces the most terrifying prospect of all, his own death. But before we dive into that, all right.
We need to take a short break.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment to explore the final act.
Sounds good.
Of Scrooge's transformation. Okay, so we're back and ready to unpack this climax of Scrooge's journey.
It's interesting how Dickens uses the ghost of Christmas yet to come, to strip away all pretense, no witty banter, no feasts.
Right.
Just cold, hard truth.
That silence is deafening, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It forces Scrooge and us to confront, the stark reality of our choices.
Yeah.
The legacy we leave behind.
And in Scrooge's case, that legacy is pretty grim.
It's not looking good.
The manuscript highlights that scene in the churchyard.
Oh, yeah.
Where he sees his own neglected grave.
It's rough.
Yeah, it's like a punch in the gut.
I know.
Realizing that he could end up so utterly forgotten.
Yeah.
His life devoid of meaning.
It's the culmination of everything he's witnessed.
Right.
The callous indifference of the businessmen. The desperation of those pawning his belongings.
Right.
It all converges.
Yeah.
In this moment of existential dread.
It makes you think, what will people say about us when we're gone?
Yeah.
Will we be remembered for kindness and generosity, or will we just be another forgotten name?
Exactly.
A tombstone.
That's a question we all have to grapple with.
It really is.
Whether we admit it or not.
Yeah, for sure.
And Dickens, I think, is urging us to confront that question head on.
Okay.
To live our lives in a way that matters.
Right.
That leaves a positive impact on the world.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind.
Oh, yeah.
To lose sight of the bigger picture.
It happens.
But A Christmas Carol reminds us that our choices have consequences.
Yes.
Not just for ourselves.
Right.
But for those around us.
And that brings us to the most remarkable aspect of the story.
Okay, what's that?
Scrooge's transformation.
Oh, yeah.
The manuscript shows how Dickens meticulously crafted this scene, highlighting Scrooge's newfound joy, his eagerness to make amends, his genuine desire to change.
It's like a breath of fresh air after
Yeah.
all that darkness and despair.
Totally.
And what's even more amazing is that Scrooge's transformation isn't just internal.
Right.
It manifests in the world around him.
Remember how we talked about the fog?
Oh, yeah.
Representing that societal blindness to suffering?
Uh-huh.
Well, check this out.
Okay.
When Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning, the manuscript describes how the fog has completely lifted.
Wow.
The sun is shining.
Oh, wow.
And there's a crispness in the air.
No way. So it's like Scrooge's inner change is reflected in the outer world.
Exactly. It's a visual representation of the interconnectedness of things. The idea that one person's transformation can have a ripple effect.
Okay.
Creating a more just and compassionate world.
And it's not just the weather that changes. Scrooge's interactions with people are completely different.
Totally different.
He's laughing. He's generous. He's even dancing in the streets.
It's like he's rediscovering
the
joy of human connection.
Right.
The simple pleasure of being alive.
It's a reminder that change is possible.
Yes.
Even for those who seem set in their ways.
And that transformation, I believe, is at the heart of what makes A Christmas Carol such an enduring story.
It's a story that speaks to our deepest hopes and fears. Our longing for connection.
Right.
Our desire to make a difference in the world.
It reminds us that the spirit of Christmas isn't just about presents and decorations. It's about the spirit of generosity, compassion, and second chances.
Beautifully put. And perhaps in revisiting this story, in delving into Dickens' creative process, we've discovered a bit of that spirit within ourselves.
I think so.
A renewed sense of hope. A commitment to living a life that matters.
Well, I know I have.
Me too. And I hope you have too, dear listener.
Yes.
As you go about your day, your week, your year, remember the lessons of A Christmas Carol.
Right.
Embrace the spirit of generosity.
Yes.
Reach out to those in need. And never underestimate the power of a second chance.
And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we can all play a small part in creating a world where the fog of indifference lifts.
Right.
And the warmth of human connection shines through.
On that note, we wish you a very happy holiday season.
Yes.
Filled with joy, laughter, and the spirit of giving.
God bless us, everyone.